3976. Before the Battle of Yavin, the Mandalorian Wars begin. 3960. Before the Battle of Yavin, they end with the destruction of Malachor Fiv. But what happens between those dates will set the stage for the events of Knights of the Old Republic and thousands of years of Star Wars history. In the following minutes, we'll witness Mandalore the Ultimate's rise to power, the Republic's catastrophic early defeats, and Revan's transformation from Jedi Knight to military genius to something much darker. You'll understand why this conflict remains one of the most consequential wars in Star Wars lore, directly leading to the Jedi Civil War and echoing across the timeline all the way to the Mandalorian series you watch today. Before Mandalore the Ultimate, the Mandalorians were a fractured people, their clans embroiled in petty disputes while traditions crumbled under disunity. Once proud warriors who had challenged the Jedi now squabbled over dwindling resources. Honor was an abstraction, not a way of life. Picture a warrior, once a symbol of strength, now lost in the chaos of infighting. Into this decline stepped a visionary, promising restoration. Mandalore the Ultimate didn't start as a conqueror. His initial reforms focused on unification, aiming to rebuild what infighting had torn apart. The Neo-Crusader movement revolutionized Mandalorian society. Standardized armor replaced clan-specific designs, shedding old identities to forge a new, unified one. Mandalore formalized military ranks, transforming raiders into a structured legion. His most radical move was accepting non-Tong recruits, swelling their ranks with warriors from across the galaxy. Training complexes indoctrinated these new soldiers, forging disparate fighters into a cohesive force. These changes reshaped Mandalorian identity itself. As the New Order began to take shape, dramatic military successes validated Mandalore's daring vision. At Althir III, the reformed Mandalorians proved their worth. Canderous Ordo commanded Neo-Crusader warships in a 5-day battle that crushed the Althiri fleet. The victory demonstrated their new command structures and disciplined coordination. Similar triumphs followed at Coruscant and Azure as the Mandalorians expanded into Tyon hegemony and Hutt space. Each conquered system provided fresh recruits and resources, fueling further campaigns. The capture of the Liena system marked their transition from raiders to empire builders. Mandalore's warriors believed they were reclaiming their destiny. The early successes masked dangerous consequences. As territory expanded, so did Mandalore's ambitions. His lieutenants like Cassus Fett advocated increasingly ruthless tactics against resistant worlds. The reforms that began as cultural revitalization became instruments of domination. Warrior lodges, once dedicated to preserving tradition, now enforced ideological conformity. Glory became inseparable from conquest, honor redefined as victory at any cost. What began as restoration was becoming something far darker. Mandalore's charisma united the clans, but his vision contained the seeds of destruction. The same standardization that strengthened their military eroded individual accountability. The influx of outsiders diluted traditional values even as it expanded their reach. Victories that initially validated Mandalore's methods gradually escalated his ambitions beyond sustainable limits. The Neo-Crusader movement became a self-perpetuating engine of war, demanding constant expansion to sustain itself. The Cathar massacre marked the moment Mandalore abandoned all pretense of honorable warfare. The feline humanoids had built a peaceful society grounded in spiritual traditions and martial discipline. When Mandalorian forces arrived, they gave the Cathar a simple ultimatum: surrender or face extermination. The Cathar chose to fight, knowing they faced impossible odds. Their warriors formed last stands at mountain passes and temple steps, buying time for civilians to flee. This desperate resistance only intensified Mandalore's wrath. What followed wasn't standard military occupation, but calculated genocide. Cassus Fett implemented a systematic eradication plan. Basilisk war droids didn't just bombard population centers, they executed search patterns designed to eliminate survivors. Thermal scans identified life signs in rubble, triggering secondary strikes. Mandalorian infantry squads conducted methodical sweeps through refugee columns, executing wounded warriors and civilians alike. The final act played out along Cathar's western coastline, where retreating survivors found themselves herded into the surf. Basilisk flyers strafed the shallows until the water turned crimson. Contemporary accounts suggest fewer than 1 in 10 Cathar survived the initial purge. Those who did faced starvation or enslavement. The Republic Intelligence Bureau intercepted distress signals from Cathar within hours of the attack. Field agents confirmed catastrophic casualties before emergency protocols silenced all communications from the system. The Senate's inner circle suppressed the reports, fearing widespread panic and demands for total war. Holonet relays received strict censorship orders regarding rumors from the Quayle sector. This information lockdown succeeded too well. Most Republic citizens never learned about the atrocity. Only Jedi scouts like Revan witnessed the aftermath firsthand. What they found surpassed their darkest fears. Entire cities had been reduced to skeletal structures, their foundations stained with carbon scoring from orbital strikes. Refugee camps showed signs of systematic executions. Revan stood on a beach where waves deposited broken bodies like driftwood. The Force screamed with the echoes of dying Cathar warriors and children. This wasn't war as the Jedi understood it. This was extermination disguised as conquest. Survivors spoke of Mandalorian execution squads methodically working through underground bunkers, prioritizing children to eliminate future resistance. Revan collected artifacts from the carnage, including the shattered remnants of Cassisvet's helmet. These physical proofs made the abstraction of distant reports undeniable. The Jedi Council's continued calls for restraint now seemed dangerously naive. Dark revelations surfaced during investigations. Mandalorian field logs recorded specific orders to eliminate Cathar genetic lineages. Medical compounds had been engineered to target feline physiology. Prisoner interrogations revealed chilling pride among rank-and-file warriors regarding their thoroughness. The most disturbing discoveries came from mining outposts converted to corpse processing facilities. Here, the scale of premeditation became undeniable. Industrial equipment repurposed for disposing millions of bodies. The Mandalorians intended to erase every physical trace of Cathar civilization. Revan's transformation crystallized in those ruined cities. The mask of Cassisvet became a grim trophy and symbol of changed purpose. Where other Jedi still debated the morality of intervention, Revan saw only moral necessity. The war had revealed its true nature. This wasn't about conquest anymore, but survival. Every moment of hesitation meant more systems would share Cathar's fate. The massacre proved Mandalore wouldn't stop until either the Republic fell or his forces were utterly destroyed. There would be no negotiated peace with architects of genocide. Revan's defiance of the Jedi Council marked a turning point in the war. While masters like Vrook Lamar argued that intervention would corrupt the Jedi, Revan gathered fellow dissenters under the revanchist banner. These weren't deserters, but true believers in proactive defense. Veteran soldiers like Carth Onasi noted how Revan's forces moved differently. No ceremonial robes, just armor scored with battle damage. Their strategy sessions prioritized effectiveness over tradition, studying Mandalorian tactics with ruthless objectivity rather than Jedi detachment. The reformed 7th Fleet became their instrument, its starfighters modified for precision strikes against Mandalorian supply convoys. Where the Council saw recklessness, Revan recognized necessity. The battles at Dukkan and Terse revealed his evolving methods. At Dukkan, Revan intentionally allowed the Mandalorians to capture a planetary shield generator, knowing they'd concentrate forces around it. When their entire assault group penetrated the city center, Republic bombers leveled the district with seismic charges. 20,000 Mandalorian troops perished alongside 12,000 civilians still trapped in the combat zone. Similar sacrifices followed at Terse, where Revan ordered artillery strikes on refugee centers being used as Neo-Crusader staging grounds. Republic propaganda celebrated these as victories, ignoring the casualty reports buried deep in military archives. Admiral Kareth privately recorded concerns about the expendable losses calculus in Revan's briefings, but never objected during strategy meetings. Revan's intelligence network became just as ruthless as his battle tactics. The bombing of Ord Cedra wasn't random terrorism. Revan's spies had pinpointed Mandalore's main fuel depot beneath the city's residential districts. The resulting inferno starved 3 frontline fleets of hyperdrive coolant while killing 280,000 civilians. For every Neo-Crusader stronghold Revan destroyed, another neutral system burned. His strategists adopted Mandalorian interrogation techniques, leaving Republic medics to treat prisoners only after extracting coordinates to clan homeworlds. By the war's midpoint, both sides routinely targeted civilian populations, though Republic historians would later frame these as unfortunate necessities rather than policy. The turning point came during the Telos campaign. Revan baited Cassus Fet's forces into a prolonged siege, deliberately weakening planetary defenses to draw in more attackers. When Mandalorian reserves committed, he ordered the mass driver bombardment of his own positions. The impact craters still visible today stretch across entire continents, mixed with the wreckage of Republic and Mandalorian armor alike. Republic losses totaled 80% of their ground forces, but the Mandalorians lost 7 veteran divisions permanently. Witnesses describe Revan watching the bombardment from orbit, expression unreadable as cities shattered beneath him. Telos wasn't a battle. It was a statement that no sacrifice would be too great for victory. The Mask of Mandalore became Revan's obsession after Telos. Intelligence suggested it contained battle strategies passed down through generations of warlords. Revan stopped wearing his Jedi robes entirely, adopting armor salvaged from fallen Mandalorians. His tactical style grew more aggressive, mirroring the enemy he sought to destroy. Meetings with Republic admirals turned into interrogations, with Revan demanding ever more ruthless applications of force. When the Core World Strategy Committee proposed a defensive perimeter, Revan overruled them, committing the entire 8th Fleet to what analysts predicted would be a suicidal strike at Quar. The gamble succeeded, but left 30,000 Republic crewmen drifting in wreckage between the stars. The battlefield at Malachor V became a gravity-distorted graveyard. Revan positioned Bowder's mass shadow generator beneath the planetary crust, masking its energy signature beneath volcanic activity. Scans showed the Mandalorian armada arriving in textbook formation, their command ships surrounded by heavy cruisers, the predictable arrangement that had brought them countless victories. What they couldn't detect was the superweapons activation sequence already counting down, synchronized with Republic forces executing a false retreat. Every tactical display showed Mandalorian ships flooding into the kill zone, their commanders convinced Revan had finally made a fatal miscalculation. Mandalore recognized the trap moments before detonation. Transmission logs show him ordering an immediate withdrawal, but the gravitational distortion already interfered with communications. His flagship's engines flared as the tidal forces took hold. The mass shadow generator didn't just fire. It recomputed the battlefield's fundamental physics. Republic ships locked in escape trajectories strained against sudden gravity waves that twisted Durasteel like wet paper. Mandalorian vessels attempting emergency jumps found their hyperdrives crushed inward by spatial compression. The superweapons effects propagated at 0.3 light speed, giving witnesses in nearby sectors horrifying minutes to realize what was coming. Initial sensor readings underestimated the carnage. The gravitational vortex didn't merely pull ships downward, it sheared them apart molecularly. Hull plating vaporized under tidal stresses exceeding neutron star conditions. Escape pods flattened into metallic pancakes before hitting the atmosphere. The planetary surface itself became a weapon, tectonic plates shifting to swallow entire landing legions. Survivors reported seeing comrades crushed slowly as local gravity fluctuated between 5 and 80 standard Gs. Mandalore's challenge to single combat came too late. By the time he faced Revan in the Forge, 80% of his fleet was already twisted wreckage. Bowdor never revealed whether he understood the full consequences of his creation. The mass shadow generator's harmonics resonated with Malachor Fi's kyber-rich crust, amplifying the destruction exponentially. Seismic shocks triggered worldwide volcanic eruptions, pumping enough ash into the atmosphere to blot out the star system's primary sun for decades. The Force itself screamed as thousands of simultaneous deaths created a feedback loop. Jedi reported visions of the catastrophe from light years away. Mitra Surik's survival came through deliberately severing her connection to the Force, an act that left her permanently scarred even as it saved her life. Revan's victory speech to the remaining Mandalorians lasted 11 words. Holo-recordings show him holding Mandalore's shattered helmet, his own armor scorched from the duel. The surrender terms were absolute: disarmament, dissolution of clans, exile beyond the Outer Rim. But the true cost became evident in the days that followed. Republic medics found entire companies catatonic, their minds shattered by the gravitational distortions. Death counts fluctuated as rescue teams kept discovering new pockets of wreckage with fused corpses. Preliminary estimates suggested over 3 million dead across both fleets, not counting planetary casualties from the ensuing ecological collapse. The Mandalorian Wars officially ended with Malachor V's destruction. But the battle created something far more dangerous than peace. It forged Darth Revan. The general who entered the conflict no longer existed. In his place stood a strategist who had sacrificed entire armies for victory, who had weaponized physics itself without hesitation. The Jedi Council sensed the change immediately when he returned triumphant. His eyes reflected the superweapon's detonation constantly, as if Malachor Fi's flames still burned behind them. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would Revan. What price does glory demand when it devours its own soul? The Mandalorian Wars didn't end with silence at Malachor V. Their shockwaves turned Revan into a conqueror and fueled the Jedi Civil War. Mandalore, the Ultimate's quest for glory, forged ruin, showing how honor curdles into atrocity. The Republic's victory left entire systems uninhabitable and Jedi principles compromised. Survivors bore wounds that never healed. 4,000 years later, Mandalorians still debate this legacy. History remembers the war and what it revealed about the darkness in warriors and peacekeepers, like a fallen star tainted by its own brilliance. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and force push the notification button.